So car parts are main headline right now. CP24 says Canadian automobile parts compliant with CUSMA won't be hit with Trump's tariffs. CUSMA, that's the USMCA agreement, which I'm kind of sad that they didn't use USMCA, mostly because it sounds more musical. But that's what that means. CUSMA is the trade agreement, Canada, United States, Mexico. I wish they would have went with USMCA because then you could sing like the Village People. But you can make your own song with CUSMA. Anyway, U.S. Customs and Border Protection guidance released on Thursday said automobile parts compliant with the Canadian-U.S.-Mexico agreement on trade will not be hit with President Donald Trump's tariffs. It's the latest sign of relief for the deeply integrated North American automobile industry besieged by multiple levels of tariffs. Trump slapped a 25% tariff on all vehicle imports into the United States last month, but made a carve-out for the American-made parts of cars compliant with the Continental Trade Pact, also called CUSMA. The White House sounds like a type of rice. CUSMA. I still prefer USMCA, but they call it CUSMA. The White House originally said that they were looking to developing a similar scheme for auto part imports compliant with the CUSMA before those duties were set to go in place on May 3rd. That's tomorrow. Industry and experts said it would be extremely cumbersome and complicated to figure out a way to only tariff non-American components of auto parts. Auto parts can cross the border between Canada and the United States multiple times before a vehicle is finished. U.S. Customs and Border Protection guidance Thursday said the exemption does not apply to automobile knockdown kits or parts compilations. The big three, Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis, had been lobbying the Trump administration for months, saying the duties would drive up prices and devastate the North American industry. General Motors CEO Mary Barra warned on Thursday that the tariffs would cost the company up to $5 billion. Trump gave the auto industry a bit of reprieve on Tuesday, saying he just wanted to help the endure this little transition short term. He signed an executive order so that companies paying the automobile tariffs won't see some of the other levies, including the 25% duties on steel and aluminum, stacked on top of each other. Trump also signed an executive order offering automakers to finish their vehicles in the U.S. a rebate on imported auto parts that is equal to 15% of a vehicle's retail price. The rebate would drop to 10% the following year. The order wasn't clear about what would happen to CUSMA compliant parts, but a fact sheet from the White House later suggested vehicle components under the trade pact would get some sort of break. The industry has been warning, I've been warning for 3 months that tariffs on auto parts would shut down manufacturing, said Fabio Volpe, president of the Automotive Parts Manufacturing Association in Canada. And that's, again, it's a sigh of relief that the parts are getting kind of this bit of a relief with getting off the tariffs because they're compliant with the trade agreement. At the same time, though, they already announced layoffs. They already announced that plants are going to be shutting down. They already announced that there's going to be cutbacks. So, good news too late. Good news too late in this situation. 6 of the auto industry's largest lobbying groups in the United States sent a letter to the Trump administration last week warning about the auto part duties would cause supply chain disruption and higher prices. The letter said the most auto suppliers are not capitalized for an abrupt tariff-induced disruption. Many are already in distress and will face production stoppages, layoffs, and bankruptcy, the letter said. Volpe said the Trump administration was facing a stark line in the sand with the incoming duties on auto parts. He added that to bet against the industry that would shut itself down would be one heck of a political risk to take. Trump has claimed his tariffs will bring auto manufacturing back to the United States, but the Canadian industry has already been developing since the early 1900s. Canada and the U.S. officially integrated the sector with the 1965 Auto Pact trade deal. CUSMA was negotiated during the first Trump administration and included boosted supports for the North American automobile industry. So, again, this is just another sign that these tariffs, as we said, these tariffs seem like this whimsical solution to the Trump administration that, oh, we're going to put pressure onto other countries to force the companies back into America to set up shop and bring back jobs. But as we're seeing, that is not the case. These tariffs are actually doing more damage to the United States than doing good. And a lot of Trump fanatics keep pressuring people to say, bear with us, it's gonna be good. Eventually it's gonna be good. Please stay with the course. Even Trump came out and said, stay with the course, be patient. Even if by some miracle that manufacturing does reprieve itself in America, if factories do open up in America once again, we already know from the Trump administration, from Howard Lutnick to Scott Bassett to so many other figures, that even if manufacturing does come back, all those jobs are going to be automated. All those jobs are going to be AI. So what good are these tariffs actually doing for the general public if they know that the outcome is even more terrible? That, hey, you're going to bring the factories back. Hooray, that's great. We're going to get American jobs back. Oh, by the way, all those jobs, the labor jobs are going to be sent to AI. It's going to be robotic because we need to cut labor costs in order to bring the factories back. So this is a lose-lose situation. And right now people are angry, frustrated. There's a lot of small businesses that are frustrated because getting supplies, getting manufacturers, and getting a lot of stuff from China, obviously being the top manufacturer, is devastating. It's going to hurt a lot of small businesses, and they're already feeling the burn. We're already feeling the burn with the auto industry. They're shutting down plants. It's just devastating. It's devastating on all sectors. So this is a sigh of relief too late, let's just say. Bronson, this person says, Canada lost the production of about 1 million cars under Justin Trudeau. Now everyone is pretending to care about the auto industry. They pissed away about $270 million to a Swedish EV battery company that went bust. It's a complete disaster up here. So in Ontario specifically, we have seen time and time again about all these great investments that they're putting in, all this taxpayer money going towards investing the opening of these EV plants and battery facilities, and how it's going to be beneficial. It's going to create all these jobs. It's going to be such a huge building. And for anyone that knows about EV battery plants, they are massive. They are massive. And they're so massive that they required their own power facility. That's why you see a lot of the EV battery car plants have their own power plant right next to it, because it just takes that much energy. Same with AI. All this technology needs a lot of energy resource. And unfortunately, this country, because of what we've done to Alberta, disrupting the energy production over there, what we've been doing in Ontario, doesn't meet up to the requirements. And that's another thing that's causing this disaster. Also, the fact that the EV battery company itself went belly up. It went belly up because nobody can afford an electric vehicle. So here it is here. This is a headline from the Canadian Press. $270 million invested in Northvolt's parent company is lost, Quebec confirms. So Ontario, Quebec, a lot of provinces put their money towards this company, this EV company, this battery operation that was supposed to electrify the auto industry and make all these cars and make all these electric vehicles. And it's going to be so beneficial to the greater community. It's going to be reliant on jobs and growth and economic creation. And it just blew back in their face. And now you have $270 million gone. All that money just down the drain because of that. Here's also this automotive news. Canadian vehicle sales declined 8.2% in February amid EV market collapse. So the Canadian auto market, not only just electric vehicles are not selling, but vehicles themselves are not selling. And if you ever been to a car lot these days, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg to buy a vehicle, especially new vehicles. If you go to right off the bat, you go to Honda or you go to Ford, GM, you go right to a car dealership, it costs you an arm and a leg. Like, people had to remortgage their house to afford a vehicle, let alone an electric vehicle. Electric vehicle, you have to, sell your soul to the devil just to get one. I'm always fascinated by people that can own Teslas and live in a nice house. Like, how'd you afford that? And given the fact that in China, as we saw in China, they can build an electric vehicle for not a quarter of the cost. You can buy an electric vehicle for 10 grand. That's even cheaper than a gas guzzler here. So that is devastating. That is devastating. And while we're continuing trying to put tariffs on China and putting tariffs on the United States and focusing on this anger of this trade deal, I really don't understand why, A, we just don't go to the negotiation table again and sort this out. It could easily be fixed. And the second part is, instead of attacking China, why are we not learning from China? Why are we not learning about the fact that, hey, they have flying vehicles. They have flying cars that are cheaper, that are better made than what we have over here. What's the difference? How do we get that over here? How do we get to this kind of advancement? It seems to be working out in China. What are they doing that we aren't? Regardless of what people feel about China. Just saying. And as we learned from Jack Ma, the CEO, the head of Alibaba, the Chinese equivalent of Amazon, he pointed out that it's because China, despite the Communist Party, CPC, all that, they invest back into their industries. We don't. So as much as the auto manufacturer sector is a huge presence in this country and a huge presence within America, they don't actually get the respect and due diligence that they should be getting from the state. That if you actually invest that money, instead of manufacturing wars, instead of putting that money to foreign aid, instead of wasting this money on Wall Street and Bay Street, imagine if they put just a portion of that back into the manufacturing sector. Imagine if they put that towards building up their car industry so that production facilities can make cars beneficial and cheaper and more productive and are able to really compete with China. Because when you have $10,000 EV vehicles in China, nothing compares to it. Nothing's comparing to it. Even Tesla. How much is the cheapest Tesla compared to what China's producing? Just saying. And there's a reason why car CEOs, car manufacturing CEOs, get worried when they go and visit China. They get worried because they see how good their production is going. Here's another one. This is right in Ontario. Company halts construction of $2.7 billion of a battery project in Eastern Ontario. Multi-billion-dollar plant planned to bring hundreds of jobs to the region. So again, this falsified, hey, we're going to take your money, we're going to put it towards this battery plant operation. It's going to be such a great facility and we're going to bring jobs back to the region, and Ontario is going to be thankful for it. It's going to be such a great investment, such a great return. And then what happens? It's now on halt. And that money, that $2.7 billion, gone. So be wise on your investments. Be wise on your investments. And a lot of that has to do with the decline in electric vehicles. Like I said, it's pricey. A lot of these electric vehicles, people can't afford that. People can't afford the luxury of choosing a high-up, high-tech vehicle when they're already paying for the cost of living of rent and food and your kids and raising a family and other bills and expenses. They can't afford that luxury. And the other part of this is here in Canada, it's just not feasible. Having an electric vehicle with the snow and the cold, and we know we get cold winters here like we saw in Chicago when they had that deep freeze. Look what happened to the electric vehicles. They all plopped out. Their batteries completely shut down. And you just saw a bunch of Teslas in a parking lot that are no longer functional. So do you think that's going to be beneficial for Canada? Do you think that's going to be beneficial for an electric vehicle to be in the, up in Sudbury where they get 4 or 5 feet of snow on an average day in the winter? You think that's going to be feasible? I doubt it. So, like I said, this was just kind of a blowback on this false prosperity of the EV industry. And it's blown back so much that other premiers are making fun of this. So, as Table Salt points out, Daniel Smith tears in Ontario, says EV industry there is non-existent. The trade war with China seems phony, and Western canola farmers and pork farmers are paying the price. Gosh, the future PM of the Republic of Alberta is obviously playing into the separation idea, which we're going to get into that later in the stream. But here's what Daniel Smith said in regards to the collapsing EV industry, all these investments that Ontario keeps making. Listen to this.
Western premiers who have a large canola industry in their provinces, and that is regardless of political stripe, have raised it directly with the Prime Minister. It seems like it's a bit of a phony war. We've got a 100% tax on EV vehicles from China that no one's buying in order to protect an EV industry in Ontario that doesn't exist. And in return, we are seeing punishment on pork and canola in our Western provinces, which are product people do want. So I think the Chinese have been very targeted and direct in how they're trying to split our country up. And I think we need to revisit that. We obviously are going to have to find new markets for our products, but let's at least engage in proportionate responses rather than having a knee-jerk reaction that is only going to hurt our industries further. And that has been conveyed by myself as well as other premiers directly to the Prime Minister.
So can't complain with that. Can't complain with that. That the province of Ontario keeps making these false investments into EV that isn't existing, and then they put tariffs on the Chinese market to cars that nobody's buying from China. Like I said, even with $10,000 electric vehicles, no one's really buying electric vehicles here in Canada because of the cold, because of the terrain, because electric vehicles are just not equipped to deal with our climate. They're not equipped to it. It may be better if you're like in Toronto and driving down the streets there, or in Vancouver, or even like Southern California where it's constantly warm and sunny. You don't have to deal with snow. But, could you imagine electric snowplows dealing with 8 feet of snow? I can't see that. I can't see that. But they try to push that. They just like how they try to push electric 18-wheelers for truck drivers. Do you think that's going to work when there's no infrastructure for that? There's no infrastructure to house this electric vehicle promise and this mandate that they think they're going to have by 2035. All cars are going to be electric. It's a false promise. It's a false idea. It's a philanthropy kind of mindset, but it doesn't actually resort in good action. There's no good outcome to this, and now you're just seeing how devastating it is that they put a tariff on Chinese EVs that nobody's buying to protect an industry that has no prosperity because there's no real good investment in this. And it's just devastating in so many markets. And now we're seeing, Trump with the tariffs cutting back on some of the parts, but not all the parts. And like I said, it's a little sigh of relief. It's a little breath of fresh air for some people, but it's too late. It's a little too late to be even having this breath of fresh air, concerning the fact that people are getting laid off, they're shutting down plants, they're halting back production, and this constant up and down of tariffs. Trump's only been over 100 days now. They still got 3.5 years to go. And who knows what's going to happen with Trump and Mark Carney and the reciprocal tariffs back and forth. This trade war, like I said, we lose entirely. We lose entirely as working class people. And the only people that really benefit is certain individuals that know how to play the game. That's it.